This is Raphael.
I'm Loryn.
We're the Pacheco siblings, and welcome to the Hypercube podcast, talk show in which two siblings converse about anything and everything. So, how you doing?
It's hot. I'm tired and pretty good, actually.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine it's very hot in sunny California, where you're coming to us from now. I think viewers, our listeners are probably going to get used to you just beaming in from different locations. No,
Yeah, I think that's something that just might be me from this point forward is...
Honestly,
might pick a place on the map, and I might be coming from just like some random country.
Which location are you recording in this time, or which country, which continent? I'm not gonna lie.
The time zone.
Yeah, not gonna lie. I'm a little jealous because you're back in SoCal, our old stomping grounds. Yeah. I haven't been there in a very long time, so I'm kind of jelly that you got back there before I did. But I'm really happy for you getting to spend some time in familiar territory.
Yeah, it's actually super crazy just driving around with our cousin and just going like, because I'm staying with our cousin right now temporarily, just driving around going like, I recognize all of this.
Yeah, right. It's like
it's so strange.
It's familiar, yet foreign on the account of the fact that you haven't been there in like a decade. But yeah, it's all familiar. Like you're not going around like utterly bamboozled by everything you're seeing.
It was weird because like one of the first things that I noticed, one of the first big differences that I noticed in getting to San Diego was the buildings look pretty much exactly the same. Like it's like that hasn't changed whatsoever. However, these are old ass like Adobe brick buildings with solar panels on them now.
Yeah, because California.
Yeah, so it's just like, okay, that's new.
Right, yeah.
But it's basically exactly the same. And
just more energy efficient.
I told you about this. Yeah, I told you about this right when I got off the train from LA to San Diego. Right when I got off the train, first thing I was treated to, was some random homeless guy at the bus stop screaming his head off about politics. I was like, yep, this is San Diego. I remember this.
Oh yeah, good times. Wow, I'm so happy that you're back there again for the both of us. Hopefully, I can revisit the old hometown again someday soon.
Yeah, man.
So
it's real nice down here.
We were getting into a conversation before we started recording about American Psycho because I sent you an interesting American Psycho cosplay video. Yeah. I don't have the cosplayer's name on hand, but they do like what's that character's name? What's Christian Bale's character's name? Bateman, something Bateman. Probably a very normal first name. So the cosplayer does very great cosplay and impersonation of that character. Right. And I thought it'd be hilarious to send that your way because you're a big fan of that film. And I'm like, oh man, this is super niche too. Like who the heck is cosplaying American Psycho? Yeah. But yeah, we got us into a whole discussion about American Psycho and how weird and interesting of a movie that is. And I kind of want to see it again now, knowing a lot more about it and knowing more of what I'd be getting into, because it's kind of a film that requires some mental preparation. You know, you can't just kind of go into it cold. And so now knowing more about it, I would love to rewatch it, knowing more of what I'm getting into. But you're talking about the fact that film is prime territory for a remake or reboot or some sort of modern spiritual successor
or something like you were saying a sequel could work too.
Yeah,
and like especially in like the way the modern film industry and franchise loving studios are now, a sequel is probably the way it would go. But yeah, like it's prime territory for like a reboot or a remake or something like that, where in very much in the style of like Body Snatchers, right, where one is released like every generation, telling a new story with the same plot, basically. Yeah,
and with a similar theme, but like
same themes.
Theme is discussing. It manifests itself differently in each generation. Is the thing with Body Snatchers, and at least that story manifests itself different ways in different generations, depending on what the big societal fear is at that time. And with American Psycho, you're talking about how, because I suggested that it would be great for a sequel, just so you can just for marketing purposes, and so you could get it, actually produced and well funded. But
that's probably the way to go if you want it to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it would be billed as American Psycho 2, but it would be fundamentally a reboot or a reimagining, where it's just completely modernizes the setting and has a whole new cast of characters while maintaining the same spirit, the same design principles, and most importantly, the same thematic thrust, right? The same themes, dealing with the same themes as the first film. And that's pretty much the conclusion we arrived to. And I agree with your assessment that because it is very tied to its setting, that first film.
Yes.
Where it's like,
it is very like early 90s, like Wall Street.
Corporate, culture.
Corporate culture. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much that. And so
yuppies, that's the word I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So you're right that like it is due for a modernization, because you could tackle the same themes of, that sort of upper class psychopathy with a more modern setting of what the corporate landscape is more like today.
Right. Yeah.
And the connotation would completely change, but the themes would very much be the same, or at least the I think the aesthetic of it would change a bit too.
Completely change, because it would be like it would be. This was set in Wall Street in the 90s, right? So like this is people are actually trading like with phone calls and actual person to person connections, and people were like actually making sales with just the sheer force of personality, right? Nowadays, that's all done with computer.
Yeah.
This would be a Silicon Valley.
That's what I was thinking.
Tech giant. Yeah. Like this would be set in the middle of San Jose.
I was totally thinking the exact same thing. Its modern version would be Silicon Valley tech entrepreneur of some sort. You're saying the protagonist would essentially be like an Elon Musk analog for this sequel.
That's what I said at first, but I think I'm going to go back on that. I think Elon Musk, or not actually Elon Musk, but the Elon Musk stand-in, right? The person you look at and you go like, that's freaking Elon Musk. Elon Musk would be Jared Leto's character in this. Like that's where he would come in. He would come in and he'd be the perfect whatever these people are doing, right? Like he just comes like, he's got it all made. He's got all this power and all this money, and he's suave, and there's like people love him. And then this other guy's like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want to be the next Elon Musk. What the hold on.
What was that?
Alexa, shut up.
Is that a thing you could say?
Yeah, apparently.
I feel like we all learned something here.
I feel like Amazon knew what they were doing. Sorry about that.
No worries. So I wanted to pose the question when we were getting to that conversation. We were like, hold on, that's a podcast question. Because you need your Bateman, you need your Christian Bale lead actor. Like, I think Christian Bale is a large part of what makes that movie tick. And so who would be the lead actor for this one?
Man, that's a fantastic question. I think you have to have an English actor playing an American again.
For what cause?
Because I think it can't. Well, I think there's just something about a non-American playing an American that gives a unique perspective of how Americans think and do, right? Whereas like it's inherently a performance. Like it's not just that this person is playing like a very American role. It's that the actor is also very knowledgeable and researched in playing that role as well.
Right.
It's not just the character, it's also the actor, right?
So it makes it so that it's also a facade on that end as well.
It doesn't have to be English, but you know what I mean. It has to be somebody who's playing an American who isn't an American.
Yeah. To be fair, Christian Bale is pretty comfortable being an American. He's done that a lot. So
which is exactly why he was good for that role.
That's fair. That's probably a big part of it. Now, so who would it be? Who would it be? That's the question, because you need somebody with that level of charisma, and that level of, dare I say, zaniness.
And they have to be young.
They have to be young, probably in good shape.
Oh my gosh, you know who it would be?
Ryan Gosling.
Shoot it. Maybe. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Where's Ryan Gosling from? Is he Canadian?
I don't. Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if he fits the foreigner aspect, but he certainly, when I think of like the kind of roles you would cast him for, and he also just meets all. He is Canadian. Yeah. He totally is. Oh my goodness! I just looked it up. There we go. Meets all the criteria.
Yeah. I was gonna say, shoot it in like 10 years and get Tom Holland.
Oh, that would be pretty good too.
Yeah, I can see a Tom Holland, because like, first of all, Tom Holland, fantastic actor, is such a good guy. But man, I loved him in, what was that movie that we watched with him most recently?
Devil All the Time?
Yeah, Devil All the Time. That is like
he's phenomenal in that.
Completely separate from the Tom Holland characters that I've seen before, which was basically just Spider-Man and that one kid from The Impossible.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He has range.
Yeah, he's got range.
And I think he could pull off an American Psychopath pretty well. As well as you got to have the opening American Psycho homage scene, right? Where they're just ripped right out of bed, morning routine, knocks out 100 push-ups, right?
Now
he would rock that.
I think he's probably
except for it would be like a freaking like a tricking montage. Like, yeah, same shape.
He might be a little old for it now, but I was thinking, and this would be a very different movie, I think, from the first. But there is an interesting version of this hypothetical sequel that stars Benedict Cumberbatch, I think.
Oh man, Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Completely different movie. But that could work.
It could work. Yeah, it'd be a completely different movie, very different vibe. I think he can do a very different kind of Zane, and also a very different kind of Stoneface. Yeah,
because he does empathically challenged characters pretty well. He's already done some of those, but he does have a very particular kind of Zane. Like, it's a different Zane for the flavor of American Psycho, but hey, that might be it. That might be what we need.
Yeah. Well, there was another film that was kind of being hailed by some early reviews as like a new American Psycho that came out a few years back, but I think that one kind of fizzled out, didn't quite achieve the cult status that American Psycho did. I don't even remember the name of the movie, so I guess it just kind of dissipated into the wind. But that one, it looked decent, but that one starred Nicholas Hoult in the lead role.
Oh, hold on, I think I know who that is.
That's he played what's his name? Knox in Fury Road. He plays he plays Beast in young Beast in a lot of the X-Men movies. So he's been in a number of stuff.
I remember him.
He's got some serious range too.
Yeah, he does. I mean, Fury Road, am I right?
Yeah. From when you compare X-Men and Fury Road, very different characters.
Oh, what was it? What movie was that? Do you remember?
No, I specifically forgot the name. I guess I
thought you're like looking it up if you're gonna. But anyways, yeah. I mean, a few months ago, I watched a movie over again that kind of gave me just a completely separate thing, but kind of gave me almost modern American Psycho vibes. Not that I'm thinking back on it, but like it's American Psycho if regular people were looking, or like from the point of view of regular people in the world of American Psycho. You know what movie that was?
Huh.
The Big Short.
Oh yeah.
That's like the American Psycho from the point of view of normal people working with American Psycho characters.
Also, Christian Bale's in that one too, though.
He is, but like
very different role.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah. That one's that's a little too real though. That was something that actually happened.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Because it's like there isn't any plot or complete kooky, zany thing that you're going to be able to do in like a modern psychopath film that people aren't going to look at and go, oh yeah, that happens all the time. just because we know so much weird stuff is happening in like the corporate culture of whatever's going on right now, that people are just going to look at that and like, there isn't anything we're going to be able to do that, I say weird as if we're actually going to make this film.
Yeah.
There isn't anything that would be in this hypothetical American Psycho 2 that wouldn't be just like yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Because it's just gotten so weird. It's gotten so weird. Like when American Psycho came out, I think that was more of just like a kind of a pulling the curtain back type of movie for people, right? Now it's like you just go to Twitter and you get stuff way weirder than that.
That's true. That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. There's just some weird stuff. I mean, we're very much growing into the cyberpunk future that all the writers imagined, where like we've got these larger than life corporate characters that just control so many things and have their hands in so many pies through their diversified business portfolios. It's kind of insane.
Their portfolios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we are very much in that spot, right? Where you think of these big tech giants, for example, right? Most people know them by name. It's like, it feels very much like a cyberpunky kind of future that we're in. Like they're household names, business CEOs.
Yeah, corporations and CEOs are celebrities.
Yeah, they very much are.
Which is wrong.
Hey, y'all know something pretty meta?
What's up?
So, you know how Facebook used to be called...
It's called Meta.
Yeah, it used to be called Facebook. Now their company's called Meta. To make things make more sense. But apparently there was another company that was called Meta that's now suing Meta for using the name Meta. It's pretty meta.
You know, that I should have seen that coming.
Yeah, right.
Meta is just also just like a word.
Yeah.
Like, surely somebody would have come up with that before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could imagine, though, whoever was in charge of making this rebranding decision, right? It's just like, okay, we need to make sure that nobody else has this company Meta, and so on and so forth, get people on it. And then, like, they send out some people. It's like, okay, there was this one company that's already called Meta. It's like, how big are they?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like, yeah, we could win that lawsuit.
Yeah, we could win that lawsuit. Or we could pay the settlement, you know?
Yeah.
Which is always an option.
We'll buy them in 5 years.
Yeah.
Like at that point, it doesn't even matter, like, to Facebook. Like, if there was like 13 other companies they Meta, they're looking at them just like, these guys, they wouldn't even get into the courthouse. These guys, we'll just pay them off. These guys, we'll probably just buy.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so should we get into the main topic of this episode?
I think so.
Okay, because we wanted to, there was something we wanted to talk about here, very particularly.
There is, and I'm actually super excited. I'm like, I'm buzzing with energy right now. Shut up, Alexa.
Alexa strikes again. All right. So I've been screaming at you to finish Exandria Unlimited Calamity, and apparently you finally did between now and the last time we talked.
Dude. All right. So,
and I was like, we got to talk about it. So let me just say this now. I think the rest of this episode, probably knowing us, is going to be dedicated to analyzing the heck out of Exandria Unlimited Calamity. I'll say now,
just the first episode though. Because, oh my God,
there's so much to break down. But I will say, yeah. So I kind of want to take this time to be a full-on spoiler cast of this, because I think we both have a lot to say, and I think we've both learned a lot from watching it, as well as just enjoyed it immensely. But I'll say, if you haven't seen Exandria Unlimited Calamity, go watch it before you listen to this.
Yeah.
Because if you have any enjoyment of tabletop role-playing games or anything like that, because this is probably a conversation you'll want to listen to, but I don't want this to be your first impression of it, because it's such an incredible miniseries. It's just a 4-part Critical Role miniseries, D&D 5e actual play miniseries. Stellar cast, DM'd by Brendan Lee Mulligan, who's actually just been everywhere for some reason. He keeps popping up into different things that I watch, and like guest appearances. I'm like, what the heck? Why are you all of a sudden in my life? Because first he did this Critical Role bit. It's like, I wasn't too familiar with him before that, and now he's in the latest episode of Dear Hank and John. I was like, what the heck are you doing popping up into all my feeds? So yeah,
I need to see that.
So
there's so many Dear Hank and John stuff I need to see.
There is. You got to see the one they did with Ryan Reynolds. It's hilarious.
I know.
But also talk about weird cyberpunk futures. I would just say, I highly recommend you watch that show before you listen to this conversation, if you have any interest in listening to this conversation. Like I said, it's 4 parts. They'll all range about like the last one is the longest at like 6 hours. But you watch that at 1.25, 1.5 speed, like you should be doing with all tabletop content. You could get through it pretty fast, but it's so good. I
slammed through it at 2x speed.
Really? Oh man, I feel bad for you.
No, that's just how fast my brain processes stuff.
Okay, cool. I guess if you focus on it, then you probably don't miss too much. But because there's an extraordinary amount of detail in that.
It's so dense.
it is incredibly dense work of art, really. And it's, again, if you have any interest in this conversation, I recommend you watch that miniseries first, because this is not something you want to get spoiled. I cannot stress enough how good this is. It is hands down probably one of the best, if not the best, D&D campaigns I've ever seen. And I'd actually seen somebody once say this, and like the fact that I didn't even feel critical of this comment really testified something to me, where I was like, they're saying like, it's not just one of the best, like some of the best D&D I've ever seen. It might be one of the best stories I've ever seen told in any medium ever. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to argue with that. It is so profoundly good. It is so profoundly good.
I was going to say, as somebody who is very keenly aware of how much I exaggerate and talk in hyperbole, it is, without a doubt, the best D&D I have ever seen, and I will never make anything that good.
It's quite possible. That's the depressing part about watching it. You're just like, oh, man. Yeah, unattainable levels, at least that presently. Like, I just can't foresee it.
I watched the first episode and I walked away thinking like, what am I even doing? Like,
yeah, right.
Like, this is how you play.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what are we doing over here? Like, this is role playing right here.
Yeah, like everything. It's kind of like, what was that? There's this one like trope or like something where it's like you taste something so good that everything else after that tastes like utter bitter ash.
Yeah, totally. I get what you mean. It's very much that.
Like just the first episode alone, I was watching it. I'm like, man, like everything I'm watching, everything I do, all the D&D I'm gonna play from this point forward is gonna be in direct comparison to just this one episode.
Yeah, right. Like it cannot be unseen. That's the thing about it. It's a work of storytelling and narrative design and role playing and so many things combined. It's just such a profoundly well constructed story that once it's seen, it cannot be unseen. And that becomes difficult after a while because there's so often now where you'll be watching any actual play and you'll just be like, man, I know what this could be. I know the height. Yeah. I've seen the heights of attainable achievement that actual play can be. And now it's like, I can't go back.
You'll just be sitting back in your chair, just, drinking some juice and having some popcorn, listening to Vox Machina or whatever, like episode 470 going like, EXU Calamity was so good.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's tough. So that being said, now that we've heaped praise on this thing, let's get into the nitty gritty. So let's go on into this full on spoiler cast discussion.
Spoiler cast starts now.
Exandria Unlimited Calamity. Here we go. What did you think?
Oh my God. So okay. I keep talking about this first episode, but like even the first character introduction.
Yeah, from the very first scene. From the very first scene, you're just like, I was hooked.
Yeah, because we know it's Calamity. We know it's like the end of the world. We know going in that it's going to be fire and brimstone. He just comes in, looks at...
Yeah, first word is fire.
Luis?
Yeah, Luis.
Yeah, first word. He says fire a lot.
Luis Carrazzo, who is...
Luis Carrazzo. I was fantastic, man.
Fantastic actor. I was not familiar with him before this. Apparently, he's appeared in a number of actual play stuff around the interwebs. But yeah, he's a phenomenal actor. And also just like super masculine looking dude, too. I was going to say, I'm like, but every time it's like his role-playing scene, I'm just like... This dude is sexy as heck.
Everybody at that table are fantastic actors. And I love how they actually modeled the characters on their actual like look. Because, man, like it's super immersive when you're going in and like, we said we're going to talk about it, but we're just going back and just gushing over the production of it.
Yeah.
But like when Marisha is like talking as Pacheco and it's just like, yeah, she looks like a freaking elf.
Yeah, she does. She's got that look down.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like you have... Luis, the first night, right? And he's got this massive beard, and it's just like, hell yeah, he's the first night.
yeah. I know.
And then there's Sam.
And then there's Sam, Big Sam, which was brilliant character idea for this one, I thought, to like put his ad reading skills to use.
Dude, his What the heck, man? Sam is so good.
He is such a good role player.
I aspire to be as intense as Luis in a dream sequence and as calm as Sam in an improvised ad read.
Yeah, right. Well, and actually, that's one thing they talk about in the breakdown afterwards, the cast roundtable that they did after the fact. Yeah. Because Marisha was gushing about Sam too, and she was saying like she recalled a conversation she had with him a long time ago where she asked like, how do you do it? Like, how do you like pull off like some of this crazy like long play stuff? And one thing that he said to her a long time ago, when they were still in the Vox Machina campaign, apparently. And it's a very simple piece of advice, but I think a very vital piece of role-playing advice, is he said, just remember everything that happened before, right? And like give continuity to it and like call back stuff that your characters have experienced before. And she pointed out that like the final speech he gives on his character's last speech on the airwaves is just the most profound application of that advice that he gave her a long time ago, of just basically taking everything that has happened over the course of this campaign and then just delivering this awesome speech all together at once that he barely had time to write, you know?
Literally the middle of break.
Yeah, middle of break, which was like hilarious. They talked about that. They're like, they had that feeling where it was like, oh man, you wrote that over the course of break. We were just screwing around. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. Like Sam was going to work.
Yeah. And I agree with Brennan too. Just like, it's also just a perfect joke, right? Where you have that very serious, like hyper intense character moment. And it would be out of character for him to not have an ad read. It would be like, and then he just talks about all his friends and everything that they've done and accomplished and throughout their life and throughout their careers as like the makers and shakers of this amazing, like beautiful forgotten city. And then don't forget the Market of Wonders.
Yeah. So you did watch the roundtable afterwards?
You kidding me? First thing I did as soon as the episode 6 finished, I'm like, I watched roundtable. I watched the GM roundtable. I watched all of it. I watched it twice.
Oh yes, okay, yeah. We could talk about everything then. But yeah, so your initial impression is just basically the same as everybody's who watched it.
I highly doubt that anything like that could be not achieved again, but could be topped, because it's one of the best. It's the shining moment of a GM who has prepped for this their entire career as GMing. I think you talked about how his other
Dimension 20
show, his Dimension 20 is it's anthology. It's all short run stuff. So like he's already prepared for this, and he knows he's going on the biggest show of Dungeons and Dragons, so he just like pulls out all the stops,
probably
like, every trick in the book,
threw it all in there. The biggest actual play show on the internet, really. Like it's hard to emphasize how big a deal this show is. Like in sheer numbers, it kind of like Critical Role kind of dwarfs like official Wizards of the Coast D&D content by a large margin,
by a long shot. Also because they don't do it very often, so they don't have time to build up like a.
That's true.
Not a following, because they have a following, but they don't have time to build up to something like this, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever they drop like their annual streams or they have their regular stuff, it's like, oh yeah, cool. That's official content. Great. But like they don't have that same
well, they don't have
momentum as
that.
Critical.
They don't honestly. They lack a lot of that character driven like franchise building, where with and character and lore driven to a certain extent, but where like with Critical Role, first off, there are more people that watch Critical Role than play Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like there are a lot of that is the same. A lot of non D&D players watch Critical Role and enjoy it. And so you have a lot of people that are invested in its lore more than like the standard D&D lore. And so like you say, drop something like Calamity, and with the sheer number of people that know what that word means going into it, you know, and know what part of the world they're looking at. It's like, it's got a great like narrative investment for the audience right off the bat, just because of the franchise-ness of it.
Yeah. So you have a GM who has worked towards this their entire life.
They're
playing at a table and on the highest stakes, D&D platform, playing with some of the best players and actors in the like in their respective fields right now. it's like you can only
it's a perfect
do that
storm.
Again. Like you cannot like beat that.
Yeah, and it's so good. The cast, I will say, like the chemistry of this cast is so phenomenal too. It's just this combination of people that's just like, whoa, and they just nailed it. And although we're hearing Brendan Lee Mulligan talk about the way he does prep for something like this, for something short form like this, and the way I kind of summarize his process was he very much, because he doesn't have, like in a long form campaign, you have a lot of time to do character development that comes about very spontaneously. And then by the end of the campaign, you like, no matter what, you'll end up with some amount of depth if you've stuck with these characters long enough. Whereas with that,
and if you,
and with a mini series like this, something short form, since you don't get all that run up, he does a lot of that in prep work, in character building exercises, and in character building collaboration, where he essentially does all this work to make sure that they come to the table in session 1 with fully developed 3-dimensional characters, and then they just go from there. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
So I was going to say before about fire.
Yes, fire.
Going all the way back. Calamity. We know it's going to be in the world. He starts off with Luis's character. I forget most of their names.
Xerxes.
Xerxes, right. I forget.
Xerxes.
First night, right?
For the US.
Xerxes. Xerx. The big Z.
Yeah.
No, so you have like the scene that he's like spinning is like, oh man, we're starting already? Where the heck is everybody else gonna come into this? like Calamity happened? Like off screen? That's the level we're starting at? And then he wakes up and it's like, oh my God, wait, that wasn't what? We haven't started yet? And then he goes into all the other characters and it's that same level of just intensity, but for completely different things. There's like here's like he gives that little sneak preview of just like, here's what it could be like. Here's what you're expecting, right? Here's a little taste of that. We're gonna pull it back, and I'm gonna give you what we're actually gonna do. Here's all the politics. Here's all the moving and the shaking of the stuff. Like he was talking about, like all the characters in their little thing did something really important. That appeared later in the show, but also just like in like the history of the world. Like, you know, Sam was influencing an election. They were all preparing for this pretty momentous occasion for the city. It's like, obviously, whatever the heck the Architect Arcane's doing down there in her labyrinth.
Yeah.
Just like she's out there doing some stuff, but it's like everybody was doing something so
important,
meaningful.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just important, it was meaningful.
Yeah.
And that is hard to do as not only a storyteller, but as an improv storyteller. like with a script, I couldn't write anything that good.
Yeah, right. Well, and all of the opening vignettes of each of the characters are so good. I mean, obviously he drops us first, like you said, with that powerful cold open. And it's such a phenomenal cold open because it immediately sets the stakes. It immediately introduces you to the central conflict, what you expect to be the central conflict, which you don't realize is like, this is going to come later.
That's like 5 steps down. Yeah. That's like 5 steps down from where we're at right now.
But then, everybody's opening vignette is just so good and so fast paced and so, it's tight storytelling, right? Like none of their opening vignettes waste any time. And you could tell that. Exactly. I think there may have been some collaboration where they all had some like forewarning a little bit about what their kind of scenario was going to be, because like you could tell by how smoothly they go into it that they had some level of preparation, but it just works so well as an audience member, just seeing everybody go in, each of these characters in their element at their best moments, you know, and at their best generally. And it's just, it's incredible to watch, and you immediately realize, oh, this is the party we're dealing with, right? Like these guys are level 14. They are established. They're leaders. They're all leaders.
Yeah.
And they have a place in the social politic of this city, and they have influence, and they just have a lot going for them. This is the moment we're seeing them at.
And not only that, I love this little bit of like subtle reversal of like, we hear them doing their thing, right? Like this is at their most individually powerful. Then they all get together. We discover they're called the Ring of Brass.
Yes.
There's a silver, gold, and platinum above them. Those guys are like what are they doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I think that's a perfect place for this sort of a story. As much as I would have loved to see like a 17th level epic party, I love epic level stuff, but it's like these guys were all still effectively epic level just because of the setting, right. But having any influence in being at that level. But they were still, I think that's a good place to set player characters for this type of thing, where it's they're the least powerful of the most powerful people in the city, right?
But I think that's exactly why that needed to be.
Yeah.
Because we meet those guys later and they're all assholes. They like if we were watching them, if they were the heroes of Calamity would have happened way sooner. It would have been like the first 2 episodes, Calamity would have happened and they would have been like, shoot, it's over. We all died. Literally everybody died. Didn't save anybody. Exandria is actually screwed. And Matt Mercer fixed the lore because Exandria blew up. And it was our fault.
Well, that's the beauty of the Calamity, though. There's no need to fix the lore. It's already baked into the history that everything blows up.
Well, that's the thing, right? We see how Calamity could have been worse.
Yes, could have been worse with
the Ring of Brass. No, like what I'm saying is like we know what silver and gold rings were doing. They were not helping.
Yeah,
they were only helping themselves, and by doing so, if the story was following anybody at a higher level, somebody who was so entrenched in the belief of progress at whatever cost, there's not progress at whatever cost, excluding personal sacrifice. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Because
that's true.
They only cared about themselves. They only cared about progress for the one person that they cared about the most, which is themselves. We saw the people in silver and gold, and they were not good people. It had to be the people at the lowest, people who are scrambling for power, not the people who had it, the people who are scrambling for it, the people who had to work for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's also really important when he talks about that scene with, I don't remember his name, but he was the pirate captain.
Oh yeah, Nidus. Played by
I don't remember his player.
Lou Wilson.
Lou.
He's great.
So, oh my God, dude. That guy's a bard for sure. when he gets into character, and his voice goes from just like kind of chill and happy to just booming.
Yeah,
it's like, man, that guy just uses like thaumaturgy just nonstop. But when he has that character switch, when he's going from, I'm gonna help Architect Arcane bring the city into the heavens, right? And then he has that moment, it's like, whoa, hold on. There was a prophecy, and some stuff's going down, and I think we should take a step back. And then Brendan makes that brilliant piece of insight, retroactively makes this bit of insight where he's like, you were the one human in that room. You were the only one who didn't grow up with power. Like, you were the only one who didn't you had to scramble to where he was at, right? He started as a pirate captain and he became a merchant of, I forget what his title was.
Yeah, the Dragon Lord, whatever.
Yeah, like the dragon,
something epic.
Yeah, he worked for that title, right? So like he knows how bad things could be. And when he saw where this was going, he's like, you guys are elves. You don't understand how bad things can get. Like, I'm a human. It's been bad for a while. And like I think that's exactly where their whole party was, right? Where they didn't immediately have all of the power. They had enough to know that they wanted more, but not enough that they had to keep working for it.
Yes. And that's why I think it's brilliant to set them at that level. Like I said, the least powerful of the most powerful people in the city, because it's enough so that you get that epic level vibe, which is what you want Calamity to be, right? These guys are super powerful. They've got,
it was so cool.
They're powerful in and of themselves, but they're well geared, well resourced as well, right? They had like legendary items, up the wazoo, and because apparently Brendan let them have literally anything, according to the after round table. So they're super well geared, and so it's like you get that enjoyment of seeing super powerful characters, which you would expect for something like the Calamity, but you also get that sense narratively where it's like, they are influential leaders, so they have a lot of people under them, but then they also have people over them, right? So they're looking down at a lot of people, but they're also looking up at people who have more than they do. So, and that makes for some juicy drama that I think he really exploited. That was phenomenal.
It's perfect storytelling. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, okay, who are some of your favorite characters in that whole party, by the way, though?
So at first, I did not like Pacheco.
Oh, yeah.
At first, I did not like Pacheco, but
she has a great arc.
It's not that I don't like Marisha, because apparently that's a really popular thing to do, is not like Marisha's characters. I just felt like Pacheco didn't have as much as like some of the other characters. Like, I mean, Xerxes, right? Mm-hmm. He was a freaking first knight. What was he doing in that party except being a freaking boss and having crazy nightmares? I loved that. That bit about him was just like he was the only non-magical person in the party, right?
Yeah, close to it at least.
Well, he was he had divine magic, right, so he was the only one who had the only non-arcane, let's say, the only non-arcane person in the party. But like I love those kind of characters. I immediately knew like, yes, that's my favorite character.
Wait,
and then
Saren, not arcane.
No, you're right. He was the one who was the only one with no actual
no magic. Period. Yeah,
that's right. I forgot about Saren. That's the thing. Saren did exactly what Saret's job was, which was be stealthy and under the radar. I was like, half the time I didn't even know he was there until he did something awesome. I was like, all right. And I love his like, what even accent was that? Like his
like
man from nowhere, just like,
it was very almost like pseudo transatlantic Nord detective accent.
Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, he did the face and everything, but like those are the kind of characters I get behind. And then like I saw Patient, I was like, okay, yeah, that's just like that's the character you expect to be in this scenario. Like whatever, like that's like normal, I guess, was what I was thinking. It's like, okay, cool, she's gonna do
the expected
cool
character.
but man, once her and the Architect Arcane start like getting into some stuff together, I was like, okay, this is my new favorite duo. Like, this is awesome. I love this.
Oh yeah, they're great together.
Oh my gosh, like by the end of it, when she had like she was just like messing with people's memories and revealing like I think somebody mentioned like unmodifying a dead person's memory, and she's like, yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
It's like at first I thought it was just gonna be like bog standard wizard stuff, but this is bog standard wizard stuff at another level, which is in its own right pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that bit that Brendan was talking about that he allowed with her character build too, where he said he gave her access to the full wizard spell list and just allowed her to just pick her spells, which is totally something I've heard you propose before, and Brendan did it, letting someone pick their spells during that gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because like I think what he did with her specifically was she had the orb that she had, right? And she used that as her focus. But it was not only, I think, like her focus, but it was also
love the way she flavored that focus.
So good. But also it was the entire library of arcane knowledge of Exandria. Like the whole world was in there, right?
Oh yeah, at the end, when she packed it all in there.
Yeah. Well, like all of her memories, everything that she's learned, right. And as somebody, because she was the keeper of scrolls.
Keeper of scrolls, yeah.
A wizard with a scroll is super powerful. The wizard with all the scrolls is the most powerful. So, like having that like little quirk where it's just like, okay, not only do you have access to all the spells, because like my proposition for wizards is like there's so many spells. If you're going to be a wizard in my game, I'm going to let you have an open spell book. You still have a limited amount of spells that you can know, but you can choose which ones you know in the session. So like once you have,
well, you're saying specifically for limited stuff or one shots or whatnot.
Yeah. Well, even so, if you have a character in a campaign, I wouldn't be against doing this. Like if you have access to, let's say, 15 spells and you can only prepare, or I don't remember how the exact mechanics is, but you can only use like 10 of them at a time, right? So you have to kind of pick and choose. I would say, yeah, like if you prepare the ones that you know you're going to use, and you can have like 3 at the bottom and fill them in with whatever you want. But once you hit your limit, that's it, right? Because then your character can't know any more than that. I think the way that Brendan did it was like you can literally cast any spell you would like without limit, like without any class restriction. If your class says you can only have like 14 spells, you can use literally anything as many times as you want without limit, because she has that orb, and that is broken. And it's so good.
Well, no, I think he said it was still limited to the wizard spell list.
Oh no! Oh yes, but the wizard spell list. But still, all of them she could cast within like a day. She wanted to cast like 100 spells. She could.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because she basically had access to an entire scroll library in her orb.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. It's so cool.
But yeah.
What was your favorite character?
I really liked Xerxes. I liked his sort of, well, first off, again, just kind of getting introduced to Luis as a new player. I was like, okay, I really like this guy's style of role playing. It's very kind of like Liam O'Brien, like that same sort of very serious, dramatic kind of role player that playing that he kind of favors. I think that's always a nice relief when D&D can become just like very silly, very fast, and so you have someone to sort of ground the whole party. But I think him and Sarah, Travis's character, I really latched onto. But
the dads?
Yeah, the dads, essentially. Well, and Sarah's arc was just so great and just so heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. It's just really, oh man, it was so touching. I did not expect that to make me so emotional. Also, did you catch all the Philippine inspiration behind Sarah as well?
Nope.
Yeah, he talked
none of it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until he talked about that in the round table afterwards. Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that. It didn't even strike me that he was
double tomahawks.
Yeah, the double tomahawks with the Kali, and I was like, whoa, didn't even cross my mind. But yeah, like that was a super cool character. I just really wanted to see I wanted to see an Inquisitor rogue in action for a while, and that did not disappoint. Like, yeah, I remember one commenter pointing out like that moment in his opening vignette where Travis, like in character, makes a deduction without having to make a roll, and you could just see like it's such a great moment. But he just nailed that detective thing so well. Like he was genuinely trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, now Travis he's a really good player. Like,
oh yeah,
he actually like, for being as like a, like, doesn't he have like ADHD or something?
Yeah, he has a little ADHD.
Like, for being like as ADHD as he is, like he really pays attention when he needs to.
Oh yeah,
like, he actually picks up on a lot of stuff that I don't think a lot of the other players are. I think they're just too busy messing around or caught up in their own stuff. And he's just like, did you guys not hear what he just said?
Yeah. Yeah, like he knows how to focus in on things when he needs to.
Yeah.
And I just love the flavor of that character too. Just the way, like when he goes to work, the whole idea of just bird vision being applied to detective work was just like such a high concept. Like in a cast and a setting full of high concept ideas, like that struck me as like something super, super cool. Like I was like, okay, this would be something that exists in that city and that like keeps up with the high conceptness of it all while still technically being mundane insofar it's like completely natural. It's not supernatural, but it's still so cool.
Yeah, because it's like you think about just like the things that like bird vision can do, right? Like from miles up in the sky, can zoom in on a little mouse and catch that movement from so far away. And it's just like the moment that they establish that he can just see people who are invisible.
Oh yeah,
it's over for those pages.
Yeah, exactly. Those two grains of sand floating in the air.
Yeah, those 2 grains of sand in the night sky. You see them, and they're just like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, and then whoosh, there's a super dope animatic somebody made of that moment. And it's like, that's really awesome.
I want to see that.
I'll send it to you afterwards. I'll probably have to put that in the notes.
But yeah, like I think I have a couple of favorite scenes just in the whole thing.
Yeah, well, let me just say to wrap up my point. Those would definitely be my favorites, but it's like, it's so, that being said, we've talked about already, it's such a phenomenal cast. Like everybody is just so on point. All the characters are brilliant and they're all brilliant together too. Like the way they work together. It's just, it's hard to pick favorite. Those would definitely be my favorites, but it's like, it's hard to put any of them above the rest because favorites is really just up to preference. Like everybody was quality in this one.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like you're picking favorites out of favorites. Like everybody was so good that everyone has a top 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There's 6 players.
Okay, but what were you saying?
I was gonna say, like, I have a few favorite scenes, but man, that scene when he's in the room with the what were those things called? Those
the automatons.
Not automatrons. automatons, the Hodmadod,
Scoops Haagen-Dazs.
The Scoops Haagen-Dazs. Scoops. With that thing, and then there's a cultist, the invisible cultist in the room.
Oh yeah.
And he just like spins, slits his throat, and just like, hey guys, we have an infiltrator.
Yeah.
Just like,
oh, it's so dope.
Oh my god, I saw that so vividly.
Yeah, right. That's one of those scenes that you could just picture.
Exactly. Yeah, and then freaking what's his name? The big bad, not the big bad, but the cult leader.
Oh, you're talking about Vespin Chloris.
Vespin Chloris.
Yeah, that's who. Yeah. Finally remembered it. Yeah,
because I don't know too much of like the Calamity stuff from like
Exandria lore.
From Exandria general.
Yeah, well,
So apparently he's a character that everyone.
Yeah, he's a big deal. So yeah, Vespin Chloris, that was to me, just as a Critical Role fan, was one of the coolest parts of this. There were a lot of coolest parts. The whole thing was the coolest part, really. But that was one of the things that I was really anticipating, was the fact that Vespin Chloris was going to be a character in this. And the fact that we were going to see this, because he was essentially like the most notorious original villain of Exandria, right? Obviously, Exandria,
like of the world,
the world of Exandria. Yeah, like obviously, Exandria has like a lot of classic D&D characters. Obviously, got like Vecna and stuff they did in the first campaign. But like as far as like original characters go that are of significance, of like global significance to the world, like Vespin Chloris is a pretty notorious one. And they done a lot of like expositing some of his lore through both their most recent campaign as well as like some of their like lore videos that they've done more recently. And so it was just super cool to see him portrayed and characterized in the time period in which he exists. Yeah. And to finally see him like, be a full on villain for an arc.
Yeah. So like, would you say that like Vespin Chloris is for Exandria as an original character, basically like the same level of like somebody like Vecna in terms of their role in the world?
Yeah, at least comparable. But I guess with Vespin Chloris, like he kind of unleashed way worse evils than himself, obviously. So like he's almost becomes a footnote after a certain point.
Well, it's kind of like the thing, right? Where it's like every cultist who tries to unleash Orcus or whatever, it's just like, they're not gonna like do that because it would be so bad if they did. Like they're not gonna succeed, because if they did, that's the end of the world. It's the kind of thing where it's like, but what if one of them did?
Yeah, what if them
actually did summon Orcus? And it was what was it? Asmodeus was that?
Yes, Asmodeus was on for this one. Which we got to talk about Asmodeus.
Asmodeus.
I've always said Asmodeus. I think. I'm not sure though what I've always said.
Wolfgang Amadeus. The the scene when he's in when Xerxes is in the I don't even know what was going on. Was that like he was in a prophecy, or he was like
that vision he had where he goes into the mirror?
He was having a prophecy where he goes into the mirror. Like he wasn't like in another like space. That was just a prophecy.
It was a vision. But it was like,
and he's just having that one-on-one casual conversation with
Asmodeus,
a betrayer god. And it's just like that scene. Like the way that they were talking, everything that was going on, like Brennan is such a good storyteller.
Yeah, and a great actor, evidently.
I'm gonna choose to say storyteller because the other words that the rest of the cast had. But yeah, because like that's the thing. Like storytelling is, it's this kind of thing where it's like storytelling is inherently lying, right? Because it's like a lot of it is fabrication to get to truth, right? And when he's telling that story and he's doing the Asmodeus thing, it's like, this is the king of lies, and I've told you that that's his job and that's his role, and he's going to talk to you now. And then he says that to a player who says, okay, I'm going to choose not to roll any insight checks.
Yes.
And then what happens from that is brilliant.
Yeah. And that's what I love. And it's like, and they talk about this in the discussion afterwards too, is like, he didn't have to tell too many lies. But one thing I did notice in that vision in the mirror was in that encounter, the fact that he didn't really tell too many lies in that scene, but he did tell one pivotal lie. And that's it, which is when he says like, you're being manipulated. He says, by who? You? And he says, Or he doesn't even say no. He just shakes his head. It's like, that's like pretty much the only lie he tells. And it's like, that is like the only like bald face lie he tells.
Because he agrees to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He confirms a lot of things that Xerxes is saying, but it's like, that's not as, it's like, you set yourself up for that. But it's like, that's the only like straight up lie he told. And it's just like the most pivotal thing to like believe. And it's so good. And I love that. I love that Luis was talking about like playing a redemption paladin to the extreme of like believing that everybody can be redeemed, and even trying to redeem the devil himself, essentially. Yeah. Well, let me just talk about that for a second, if I may, that little subplot and my personal thoughts on it.
Yes. And what is, to my mind, the story behind Calamity.
Yeah.
Because everything else, all the other players had plot points that were super important and meaningful. And of course, they were all, it was all important and it was all meaningful. But that particular subplot was the story of Calamity.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking was at first, because from the opening scene, and even through especially that like mirror conversation, I was like, okay, this is all very interesting. And I like how they're playing this out dramatically. I think it's a well-told story. But like at a certain point, I got kind of concerned, because I was like, there's, at least for me personally, because there's this convention that I notice a lot in a lot of modern storytelling. And I think there are very obvious cultural reasons behind this. Which is like this tendency to portray demons or the demonic as an analog for minorities, and like that's just something, I guess, just worldview wise, just like as a Christian, that I get kind of uncomfortable with. However, I was worried that it was going in that direction on this. And then I was very like satisfied at how wrong I was. Because that takes a turn hard.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh dang. Like even I was like shocked at just how hard that turn was when he finally reveals himself. And we see the real Asmodeus essentially for the first time. Because it's like, there, and I guess it helps that there's a lot of, all the scenes with him up to that point are just one-on-one with Xerxes. And so they're very much POV, right? They're perspective scenes.
Yeah.
Where you're literally seeing Asmodeus through his eyes, which is in a very optimistic way. Yeah, very subjective. Exactly. Very subjective perspective. Because like even the way those scenes are described, like the way he manifests himself to this one person, right, is what we're seeing. And so it's like you get that kind of optimistic look. And I guess like the perspective, that sort of perspective bent to those scenes kind of got me like so immersed that I honestly thought for a second, it's like, wait, hold on, are we seeing like an actually like empathetic portrayal of Asmodeus here? Is that what they're trying to go for? And then it was just like, nope, squish.
Yeah. Do you remember what Brennan said? He had some pre-written lines that did not get used.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what those
I'm trying to remember.
Those were fantastic. He was like, there's this one bit where he was just like, I don't remember how it started, but he was saying like that's a problem with all you mortals. Like you love something that is hurting. If I came to you in that vision at my full power, you wouldn't have wanted to help me or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you needed something to help, and so I came injured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's brilliant. And I love, and he was, Brendan was saying this in that round table as well. And I wanted to get kind of your perspective on this commentary, because he was talking about manipulation, which is one of your areas of expertise. And he was saying, there was a comment he was making in reference to like some study, and I think he kind of stumbled over his words a bit, but I think I get what he was trying to say. The way I interpret what he was trying to say was like, with those kinds of manipulators is that they're high on emotional intelligence and low on empathy.
So what? There's technical words that he was stumbling over. There's something called empathive intelligence or emotional intelligence, And so basically, psychopaths are high in emotional intelligence and low in emotional empathy, which means they understand emotions intellectually, academically, very well. They don't feel those emotions the way that regular people do. So what that means is they know, oh, this person is sad. This person is happy. This person is vulnerable, right? So it's like, they know that, but there's nothing stopping them from acting however they want on it. There's no societal or emotional pressure going, maybe you shouldn't kind of push your agenda on them at this current moment, because they're not in a good space for that. It's like, oh, well, that's exactly why I want to do that.
Yeah. And I love the way he kind of summarized its narrative application, which is that essentially like how in practice it looks, which is that they know what to say to hurt someone, but can't feel it when they do, right? They don't feel it when they hurt someone.
Exactly.
But they know exactly what to say to do it.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh man, yeah. And that's exactly how he played Asmodeus. And it was just, well, first off, it was just super cool to see a portrayal of a classic D&D villain again, and how it would be done in this particular story, in this particular setting. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, because it's like, when was the last time you got to see a DM play Asmodeus? Like, come on. When was the last time? It doesn't happen often.
Yeah. And it's like, it's proper Asmodeus, right? It's not even like Avatar Asmodeus. Yeah. It's not like cultist summoning a portal, you see Asmodeus' hoof through a portal Asmodeus. This is like, I'm here.
Yeah, totally. Hello, this is Future Raph coming to you from the mixing room. So this conversation ran a little long, so we have decided to break it up into 2 separate episodes. So this has been the first half of this conversation, and the second half will air for next week's episode. Until then, this has been the Hypercube podcast. This show is edited by Loryn Pacheco, mixed by Raphael Pacheco, with original theme music by Mono Memory. Till next time, God bless.